So, welcome to episode number 25 of the Monday Morning Roll Call. I'm so glad that you joined us. If this is the first time that you have, be sure to check out our website. It's ontheblueline.com. Again, ontheblueline.com. If you're joining with us again, thank you so much, and please share this podcast with others. That does it for announcements this week. The Monday Morning Roll Call starts now.
On my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public trust. I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for their actions. I will always uphold the Constitution, the community, and the agency
I serve. So, this week, there's been a lot of talk about preparation, and there's a lot going on here, as I've said in earlier episodes, down here in the Central Florida area. So as this is being recorded, we're a few days away from finding out whether or not Hurricane Dorian is going to come visit us in Florida, or whether or not that high pressure is going to weaken and that thing's going to head north. So the first thing I want to do is talk about a story. And this was a story that came out on August 28th, and it was from Fox News. And they talk about Good Samaritans help the California cop subdue homeless subject who tries to take a deputy's weapon. And the story goes on to say how these three men, they're being hailed as heroes after they stepped up to try to help a California police officer who came under attack while he was trying to arrest a suspect during the weekend. This incident happened on Sunday around 3 p.m., so it was the middle of the afternoon. You know, the sun's out, and this wasn't something that happened in the middle of the evening. And they were responding to a call of a homeless man, and this guy was allegedly creating a disturbance at a convenience store. And in the video, you can see that they go try to make an arrest, or at least to detain the guy. We don't know for sure what he was doing. And all of a sudden, the man begins to act erratically, and he starts throwing punches, and the deputy loses his balance and falls to the ground. Immediately after that, the suspect, who they're terming the homeless man, then tried to grab the deputy's gun from his holster, which obviously could have had catastrophic results. Well, the deputy yelled, and this gentleman, Brian Whitney, not law enforcement, just a random individual out and about, he heard, and he's quoted as saying, "I heard the officer yell, 'Get your hand off my gun.' And as soon as I'd seen that, I went down, ripped the homeless guy's hands off the officer's gun, and then he got involved." Two other men also came over and came to the aid of the officer, including one who could be seen sliding the officer's weapon away from the homeless attacker, which means he presumably got it out of his gun belt. And the group was eventually able to subdue the suspect until additional officers arrived. They arrested the man and they charged him. Well, the officer personally thanked these individuals for helping out, and the officer was quoted as saying, "I told him I wasn't even thinking. The only thing I was thinking was about your safety." And I'm sorry, that's what the gentleman told to the officer when he thanked him. The neat thing is that they've come out and they said, you know, these guys' actions, these citizens' actions, they really are heroic. And the captain came out and said it just reinforces your belief that we're all in this together, and that there are really good citizens there in that town. I believe it was in LA, down in California. And it really brings to light this thought that, you know, we live in a time where people, they are more likely to grab their cell phone. They're more likely to Facebook Live something than get involved and help. And that's so neat, and it's so important when we see that things like this happen and people are still willing to come to the safety and to help others, especially law enforcement. I mean, it's great that they came to help law enforcement, but we live in a time that people don't feel that need, that desire, that have to. And I get the other side of this equation, that we also live in a time that's very litigious, and that you have a very good chance of being sued in some cases, even though there are Good Samaritan laws in all states and so forth. But we do live in a time where there is maybe some risk in getting involved. And there's always that danger and some safety concerns in getting involved on the front end anyway. But, you know, this is the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to come to the aid of others. We're supposed to help and to get engaged. And this isn't just law enforcement. You know, there's something wrong when we're more concerned about taking a selfie than getting the perfect video than we are with helping others who are in danger, be it whatever that case may be it anything from a traffic crash to a situation like this where an officer needed help. So, you know, great job to these guys, very heroic. The other side of what I want to talk about this week is this idea of preparation, though. Because here's the thing. In a moment like this, where you're coming to the aid, in something like this, it's just really a function of helping the officer get control of the guy. But in some situations, it also comes down to just how prepared you are for that moment. How prepared are you for whatever the situation may be that you're facing? As I mentioned, here in the Central Florida area, we're getting ready for this storm. And there's a lot of talk about where this hurricane is going to hit and if it's going to surge up the East Coast, and is this thing going to come across the state and affect Central Florida, or is that high pressure up in the northern Atlantic going to lessen, thus allowing this thing to go back to sea where we all are hoping it goes? But there's one commonality. There's one thing that you hear over and over, and having lived in Florida now for over a decade, you hear this every time there's a storm, and it's this idea of preparation. How prepared are you for whatever is going to come? Because you don't know. I've talked last week or within the last few weeks about this idea of luck, where luck is essentially what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And here's the thing, in all areas of our life, we have to be ready, we have to be willing to do what it takes to be prepared. For a hurricane, if you think this thing is going to be coming anywhere near you, you got to make sure that you have food, and food that you're not going to necessarily need power for. You got to be ready to lose power for some length of time. You've got to possibly board up windows and so forth, especially if you've got like older jealousy style windows or something like that. You may need to do something to make sure the wind isn't going to get under those. You got to make sure you're securing doors. If you live in a low area, maybe you're going to do some sandbagging. Maybe you're going to end up using some tarps and that kind of thing. Maybe you have trees that are really close to power lines and they need to be cut back, or you have trees that are really close to the house that need to be cut back, or you've got trees that are diseased. Whatever it may be, there's a whole list, a whole bunch of different preparation needs to take place, besides making sure that you have the proper tools and so forth that you're going to need. That could be flashlights, that could be generators, that could be a whole myriad of different things. Well, it's really no different in life. See, the storms of life are coming, and there's no way to get around that. And we all like to live, and especially in Florida, this becomes old hat. Every fall, you can pretty much expect they're going to talk about a storm. But just because they talk about it doesn't mean it's going to hit you and doesn't mean it's going to hit your area. But that one time that it does, you are going to be so thankful that you actually prepared for it. And that's true in life as well. See, the storms are going to come, that we're going to have the winds, we're going to have the floods, we're going to have those moments where maybe you're called to action, like in this case where these guys are running over to help save this cop's life. And in those moments, maybe it's someone else's life. Maybe it's a loved one's life. Maybe you're walking down the street and you get attacked. Whatever you've done for preparation, maybe it's your everyday carry. Maybe it's what you carry on you. Maybe it's the training you've gone through. Maybe it's just being in shape and being able to react and act at the right moment. Maybe it's something in your career. Maybe it's just being prepared from a mental level. Whatever it is and whatever that storm is that may come, if you're not prepared, you may not survive it. You may not thrive when that storm comes either. This week, I just noticed today, in fact, Jocko Willink, and I don't know if you follow him on Facebook, but he does some really great things. He's got a great podcast, and I love some of his books that he's written. But he's infamously known for getting up around 4:15, 4:30 in the morning and doing his daily workout. And today, he had on there that he missed the first time, and he was going out for the second alarm. And he makes the statement that, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. In other words, it's this idea of redundancy, this idea of preparation, this idea of being ready that, okay, every morning I get up and I'm going to knock out this workout so that I'm ready for my day, so that I have the energy and the dedication to what I'm doing. However, something may go awry. So there's a redundancy to it. I set 2 alarms, and thank goodness I did, because 2 meant that 1 actually worked. If I would have only had 1 alarm, it may not have worked. It's the same idea. Whether you're talking these long lines getting plywood for their house, generators, gas, whatever it is to prepare for a storm, there's things we can do to prepare for the storms of life, for the things that we may have to deal with on a daily basis. So what is the benefit of preparation? Well, first of all, I think that it provides a level of comfort. You know your baseline. You have a familiarity with it. You know what to do. You're prepared. When you have the water, the supplies, the house is boarded up, you have a generator, know you can get through a few days, or you've made plans to, what you're going to do with the pets and where you're going to head, or maybe you've got livestock. I mean, in Central Florida, there's a lot of livestock. So maybe you've made those plans, what you're going to do, how you're going to feed them. There's a certain amount of comfort that comes. Sure, the worst may come, and you may not be as prepared as you had hoped. However, it provides a certain level of comfort. Same thing with knowledge and training. We talk about this incident with this officer being attacked and them trying to take the gun from him. There are certain things you can do as far as training to feel more confident that, okay, in a moment like this is what I'm going to do. I roll up on a traffic crash and there is some sort of wound where I have to stop the bleeding. This is what I do. Having knowledge, having preparation, being prepared provides a certain level of comfort. It also allows for a measurable outcome and a way to improve for next time. After that hurricane comes, after the rain subside and the floods go down, if you were prepared at all, now you have something to measure against. Was I prepared enough? Did I need an extra 5 cases of water? Did I need to actually get the generator? Did I need this? Did I need that? It allows for a quantifiable measurement of where you need to improve, which is going to allow you to improve that much more in the future. The other thing that I want to point out when it comes to preparation is it allows us to help others. And if you've been listening to this show for any length of time, you know that I believe strongly in an others-centered, others-oriented focus. And I mention that a lot because I really think that's how we do life, and that's the whole concept of what I'm trying to build here at On the Blue Line. Well, when you're prepared, you have the opportunity to help others. It's no different than that often quoted airline oxygen mask illustration. If someone needs assistance, be it a child or an older person next to you, you put your oxygen mask on first when you're on the airplane if an emergency takes place. And why is that? Well, it's because you're no good to anyone if you pass out. It's like we tell new officers when they're responding to these important scenes, officer needs assistance. Absolutely. Get there as quickly as you can, but get there as safely as quickly as you can. Because if you're going 120 miles an hour and you wreck your vehicle and you never make it there, you're no good to anyone. In fact, you've just created another victim that has to be rescued. So keep in mind that when we get to this idea of preparation, and it allows us to be in a position where we can help others and that we can make sure that we are getting ourselves ready so that then we have the wherewithal and the ability to help others in their time of need as well. So that does it for this week's episode. Hopefully this storm will bypass Florida altogether, and hopefully it will bypass mainland U.S. altogether and head right back out to the ocean. By the time you're listening to this, we should have a better idea for where exactly it's going to strike or if it did. But I will see you next week either way at Roll Call, and in the meantime, I will see you out there on the Blue Line.